All right, the next topic that I want to cover with you guys is going to be rational functions and asymptotes. So I want to focus on identifying the vertical, horizontal asymptotes, the vertical asymptotes, the horizontal asymptotes, the slant or the oblique asymptotes, making sure you're comfortable simplifying, solving, as well as graphing, and then also making sure you're going to be able to identify some holes. But let's just go through a quick little review with vertical asymptotes and horizontal asymptotes. And then also I'll throw in a little topic about holes as well, because I think that's important. So it says find the vertical and horizontal asymptotes. So let's go over a function f of x equals a x minus 1 all over a x squared minus 9. Okay, so the main important thing, guys, when we're looking at vertical asymptotes is those are going to be the values that are what we call a non-removable discontinuity. Those are going to be values that make our denominator 0 that cannot be simplified or factored out. So we always want to look to factor. How can we simplify this? Now, thankfully, over here, there's nothing in our numerator we can do, but in our denominator, I can simplify this to an x minus 3 times an x plus 3. Okay, that's going to be your difference of two squares. And then if you want to identify the values that are going to create your vertical asymptotes, just set your denominator in factored form equal to 0. So I have an x minus 3. Now, again, this is a zero product property, but I'll just work it out here to have that. So therefore, I can say x minus 3 equals 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. So therefore, x equals 3 and x equals a negative 3. Again, those are going to be my vertical asymptotes. Now, for the horizontal asymptotes, we want to apply what we call the horizontal asymptote test, all right? And I'm not going to write out the whole thing. I'm just going to summarize it. So there's three options we have. We could have the degree of our numerator be less than the degree in the denominator, which we have in this case. When that is possible, or when that occurs, our horizontal asymptote is going to be y is equal to 0. When we have the degrees are exactly the same, so let's say this was x squared and let's say this was x squared, then what we'd have is you're going to take the leading coefficient of your numerator over the leading coefficient of your denominator. So y equals leading coefficient over leading coefficient. And a lot of times that's going to be a fraction, or it just reduces down to an integer. And then the last case is when the degree in the numerator is larger than the degree in the denominator, you're not going to have a horizontal slant, or you're not going to have a horizontal asymptote. You may have a slant asymptote. So that's what we need to go ahead and check. Now, the last thing I just want to bring up is what about Miss McLogan if we had a hole? How does like the holes play into vertical asymptotes and horizontal asymptotes? So I wasn't really planning on doing that, but let's just do a quick little example. Let's call this g of x. And let's say this was x minus 1, and this was a x squared minus 1. Okay, now again, don't just be dividing things out here, right? We got a factor here. And so when I go ahead and factor this, I get a x minus 1 all over a x minus 1 times a x plus 1. Okay, so what I want you to see is since these are separated by multiplication, those expressions are going to go and divide out. So my simplified version of my g of x is going to be 1 over a x plus 1. So therefore, I have a vertical asymptote at x equals negative 1. Now I might say, well, Mr. McLogan, it's x plus 1. Yeah, but when I set x plus 1 equal to 0, right? When you say x plus 1 equals 0, you get x equals a negative 1. That is the value of my vertical asymptote. However, x minus 1 is still this, or when x equals a 1 is still a discontinuity. That still makes your denominator 0 because 1 squared minus 1 is still 0. However, it gets simplified out. So that is what we call a removable discontinuity, which again is going to be a hole. So I'll say as I have a hole at x equals a positive 1. So that's the difference between vertical asymptotes and holes. Holes can be divided out. Vertical asymptotes cannot. However, they are still undefined values for your domain. So make sure you remember that. All right, so I did mention about slant asymptotes. So let's go through an example of slant asymptotes. So again, this is going to occur when your degree in your numerator is going to be larger than the degree in your denominator. So if I had a problem like this, you can see here that the degree in my numerator is larger than the degree in my denominator. Okay. Now, again, you could have a hole, right? So you always want to look to factoring it first to see if things could simplify. I cannot factor this across real numbers though, and this looks a little difficult to go ahead and factor as well. So I would probably just hedge on my bet that, hey, there's probably a slant asymptote going on here. So to identify the slant asymptote, all we simply need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is apply long division. The quotient of that is going to give us our equation for our slant asymptote. and we don't have to remember about the remainder. Now, I know a lot of students hate long division, so that's why I think it's important for us to go through this step by step, okay? Now, you can see that we don't have an x in this case. Now, you can, if you are kind of familiar with synthetic division, you can create a space value if that makes you feel more comfortable. You don't have to, and it really kind of comes into, how comfortable you are with identifying the applying long division, and you can kind of leave this 0x out. But I always like to make sure when I'm setting up long division, you got to make sure you have things in standard form. Highest degree first, going down in descending order. All right, so let's go through the process step by step, okay? Because finding slant asymptotes is a very common topic for this midterm. So I'm going to say, how many times is x squared divided into x cubed? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if this gets confusing or you just want to double check your work, write it over to the side. How many times does x squared divide into x cubed, right? It's just a rules of exponents problem. Remember, when you divide exponents, you subtract the powers. X cubed, 3 minus 2 is 1. So therefore, that's going to be an x to the first. Now, what we do is when we get our first term of our x to the first. When we get our first term of our quotient, we need to multiply that by both terms of our divisor. So x to the first times x squared is going to be an x cubed. If you did it correctly, you're going to get the exact same values here. And then x to the first times 1 is going to be a positive x. Here's where including this is sometimes helpful, okay? So you can line them up there, because if you didn't include that space value, sometimes you don't know where to put it and you can get confusing. So I'm going to put brackets around here, and I'm now going to subtract the rows, okay? So go ahead and subtract the rows. Now, when I go ahead and subtract the rows, x cubed minus x cubed is just going to be a 0x cubed, so we can just leave that off. And then again here, you could put a space value here if you want. Negative 2x squared minus 0x squared, doesn't really matter, or you could just bring it down. That's going to be a negative 2x squared. And then 0 minus a 1x is going to be a negative x plus 1. You can just bring it down or subtract it from 0. It's kind of the same idea. All right, how many times is x squared divided into a negative 2x? Again, you're like, I'm not really sure. Okay, then write it on over here. How many times does x squared divide into a negative 2x squared? X squares divide out, right? So therefore, it's just left with a negative 2. Now again, negative 2 times x squared is a negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times 1 is going to be a negative 2. And then you could subtract your rows, but what's going to happen again, minus a 0x is just going to be, you're just simply just going to get a negative x. And then I forgot to do this. 1 minus a negative 2 is going to be a positive 3. But in this case, guys, it doesn't really matter, because this is going to be your remainder, because my x squared does not evenly divide into this negative x. So this is going to be a remainder. And the cool thing about with our remainder with slant asymptotes is they're converging to 0. So all we need to worry about is just going to be what is our quotient. So to find the slant oblique asymptote of this polynomial is simply just going to be x minus 2. So I can say the slant asymptote is going to be y equals a x minus a 2.